It's Wednesday, it's raining, and we're getting some new stories, so you know what that means.
Laughing aloud now, magic in the air. Wands roll around us, cast away our care. Friends in the hallways, adventures we find. Spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's so easy for life is a spell we know. We're casting joy and glow. That's a wizard show.
Ba-dum. I never get tired of that song. It just brings a smile to my face, even though we're talking about stuff that involves our favorite people. And people keep commenting, well, I don't want to hear about Wizards of the Coast anymore. I'm not giving them any money. Well, you know, this has kind of been the bread and butter of this channel for forever, is talking about independent gamers. But at least once a week, I got to talk about the idiots over at Wizards of the Coast, just so we can like shine a light, a flashlight on the cockroaches. And then we can look at every other game company out there and go, see what Wizards is doing? Don't do that. Do anything but that. And chances are you'll be successful. And I know that there are definitely game companies out there who went, yeah, you know what? He's right. We're just not going to do that. I mean, Troll Lord Games, Shadowdark, both perfect examples. You might be wondering why we're looking at this picture from the classic Dragonlance. Segue. Well, recently we had another convention. We had GaryCon, which was the convention started by the Gygax family to celebrate Gary Gygax and independent OSR, OGL type gaming. But in the last few years, apparently Wizards of the Coast managed to wheedle themselves in and have some representation at GaryCon. So one of the luminaries of the gaming industry was Kevin Lamb. Kevin Lamb went to the artist booth at GaryCon, and he talked to Larry Elmore. Larry Elmore, responsible for some of the most iconic art in Dungeons and Dragons. And Larry Elmore told Kevin a story about how he approached Wizards of the Coast saying, hey, I'd be happy to do art for you guys, especially with the new Dragonlance stuff coming out. And Wizards of the Coast responded, no, thank you, Larry Elmore. We wanted a digital artist to do it because digital art has more pop. And that's what the kids want today. They don't want your hand-painted, exquisite masterpieces of art. No. We want computers and AI and digital to do it. No offense to the digital artist who did this work for Wizards, but just take a moment here. We could have had this. You know, the classic characters from Dragonlance. Beautiful art, evocative, even put in little rays of sunshine. I mean, this is just, you know, Dragons of Autumn Twilight. It's just classic. It just tells you everything you need to know about what's going on. They're like, yeah, we're ready for the dragon. And the dragon's behind them going, oh, really? Well, I'm ready for you. I guess you should have looked the other way. blah, 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 blah. So we could have had that. That's the art we could have had. But Wizards said, no, that's not what people want. No, we want art that pops. We want art that sells. We want art that says 2025. So we got this. Could have had Larry Elmore, but we got this. And I just want to draw your attention to this gentleman right here. This nightmare-fueled individual right here with those dead eyes just going, get me out of here. In addition, we got this, and we got a dragon. And again, they're just like, we got the same, hey, let's look this way. And the dragon's like, hey, look at them. They're not looking at me. I'm going to just swoop down and eat them. But again, I just want to say that we got this. Could have had Larry Elmore. Wizards of the Coast went with this. And that's just an example of the genius of Wizards of the Coast, the brilliant marketing. We're also getting some more stories from post GaryCon, going into Gen Con, going into the conventions regarding the long gestating Dungeons and Dragons television show. Remember when Wizards of the Coast, Hasbro, TSR announced Dungeons and Dragons, a television show? I mean, hell, part of the reason why Gygax moved to California was to get D&D television shows created. And of course, we got the classic 1980s cartoon about Dungeon Master and those kids. But there has been a long gestating desire to create a Dungeons and Dragons TV show, live action type thing, similar to, say, Mythica on Amazon. Now, look, if you want a D&D television show, Mythica on Amazon, Delicious in Dungeon, or the Critical Role cartoon. But no, this has been gestating for a long time. I'm not just talking like a month ago, a year ago. No. I remember scripts floating around in the 90s when I was still working in the studio system, and in the 2000s for a D&D television show. Recently, it's been announced that Netflix is now stepping up and going, we'll do it because we did such a great job with all the other IPs that we've got, like, Power Rangers, The Witcher, Starship Troopers, Transformers, The Imperfects. Yeah. I mean, we can't do a worse job with a Dungeons and Dragons show than we did with The Magicians, or Transformers, or Starship Troopers, or The Expanse, or So, and we then heard that they're going to do it set in the Forgotten Realms. And then we heard, it's going to be Drizzt. And people are like, yes, a Drizzt show. That would be great. Well, now it sounds like it's not going to be Drizzt, because apparently Wizards of the Coast believes they have a character who's better and more approachable and less problematic than Drizzt. And it's these dudes. These dudes, the characters from the Heir to Strahd novel. They're saying that these individuals are less problematic than Drizzt, and if they do a new Dungeons and Dragons TV show set in the Forgotten Realms, it might be these characters or the Fallbacks. Remember the Fallbacks? That experiment of the book series that they were doing about the characters. It was like, well, you can't get the real characters to save the world. We've got the Fallbacks. So apparently Drizzt is too problematic for Wizards, so they're going to go with something less problematic. And they're thinking about doing Heir to Strahd, or at least doing some more stuff with Ravenloft, but they don't want Ravenloft to be scary. That's why Heir to Strahd is out, because people find Ravenloft and Strahd and everything about the Ravenloft setting too scary and not in sync with the current Wizards of the Coast thought pattern. So whatever they do with Ravenloft and whatever they do with Forgotten Realms Dungeons and Dragons television show on Netflix, because we know Netflix has done such a great job in the past with IPs that they've been handed, like Enola Holmes or Power Rangers, or I don't know, all the other ones, right? The Imperfects, the Faded West, all the shows that they got really, and then they canceled. Bridgerton. Yeah, that's what we're getting. Now, last week, we had the major issue with the whole VTT thing, and we spent a week talking about that. The latest crisis of Wizards as they fire 90% of their staff in charge of the whole digital thing, after saying, this is what the digital thing is going to be. This is it. This is the future. We've been telling you guys this with 2020. This is what we're going to do. We're going to have the AI gobble up all the stuff and make new stuff, blah, 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 blah. Everything the OGGM has been telling you for the last 5 years is absolutely 100% true. Well, we failed. And why did it fail? Well, according to leaked documents that Professor Dungeon Master made a video about, it was because the two CEOs, whatever her name, the new CEO of Wizards is, who, has her history with Microsoft and computers, and Chris Cox, who has a history with Microsoft and computers, and, Chris Cox, who plays dozens of D&D games a week, and really has his heart and soul and, finger on the pulse of Dungeons and Dragons 2025. Both these highly educated individuals who have a long-standing resume of how the video game market works apparently had no idea what a VTT was. And the whole impetus, as we saw, for Sigil was it would run like a video game. They've been very honest about the whole video game aspect of it, but they actually really, really thought it would run like Baldur's Gate, not like a VTT. Now, if you watched any of the playthroughs of the VTT in the wild, like the ones that we saw at the conventions or the one we saw in Dimension 20, it's like, you know, when they were just playing, it's fine. You know, when the thing was passive and they were just using it as example for like the arts or the background, like, oh, this is where you are, this is what you see, that was fine. But once they started interacting with the VTT and using it to, someone's at the door. Hello? Oh, thank you for. Yep, I'm just about to. All right. Okay. All right. Be careful on the rain. Thank you. It's my dinner. Hi, Steve. Yeah. So that's why it failed, and that's why they fired so much of the staff, is because they hired these people to make a video game, and they thought the video game would function, the VTT would function like a video game, and they thought all the DLC, gotcha, pay to, you know, cosmetics, pay to use the AI would work like it worked in the pubs. Pubs, is that what they're called? The gotcha games, you know, and the DLC would work with the VTT. But as we saw, as I was saying before the phone rang, every time we saw it in the wild of the live plays, once the people started actually interacting with the VTT, it ground to a halt because it turns out it couldn't do all the things that it did. So yeah, then they threw it out there. They said, it's ready. It's February. Here it is. And people are like, wait, what? And then they gave us 140 word press release. But that's just unheard of. 140 words is like literally that sentence in the example there. That's nothing. You can't tell me anything about a product in 140 words. Or it's like 2 sentences. So yeah, they had no faith in it. They realized that they had purchased a lemon, but they were contractually obligated to get it out there. And then they just went, fuck it, you're all fired. And it just sucks because it was like on a Wednesday and these guys had no warning that they were going to get fired. Just, hey, I know we just invested in all this money in this product. What's worse is after they spent all that day, 3 separate times, announcing the death of, or as they put it, the sunlighting, we're sunlighting it. We're sundowning it. We're not killing the project. We're not burying the project. We're sundowning the project. I don't know what that means, but apparently that's how Wizards of the Coast now describes that they're ending thing. So after letting us know not once, not twice, but on 3 separate occasions between Wednesday and Thursday that this was happening, they also managed to sneak in an announcement that, oh, by the way, all that energy, we're now going to reinvest in D&D Beyond maps. And we're possibly working on a new VTT called Dungeon Delvers, even though there's no other information anywhere out there on the Dungeon Delvers. So if anybody knows anything about that, please let me know, because other than the mention in the article and the press release, there's nothing. And I was like, well, are you working on another VTT? Or are you just referring to the book? But yeah, D&D Beyond maps. So you just fired 90% of your staff. And you let us know on 3 separate occasions, you know, in case we weren't angry at you enough. It's like rub salt in the wound. Hey, that guy, we fired him. Have I mentioned that we fired that guy? Oh, by the way, that guy, we fired him. Then it's like, oh, but we're also working on a new thing. And you're like, but you just fired 90% of your staff. You've got like 3 guys left to work on this D&D Beyond maps and make it better. Why did you fire 90% of your staff? Well, because in the morning we didn't know we were going to be focusing on D&D maps, but now we've got this thing and we got to focus on it, and we've been saying, and the stockholders and blah, blah, blah. So we got to do something VTT, so we might as well focus on D&D Beyond maps, which is what we should have done in the first place. And the mysterious Dungeon Delver. Now, hopefully, Wizards might come out with some good news. I mean, we know we got some new product coming out, right? I mean, is there any hope? Does anybody out there have any faith that at any point in time between now and 2030, in the next 5 years, that Wizards is going to do something to pull D&D out of its spiraling death? Or is it just that they're so entranced with this idea of D&D as a brand supplementing D&D the game, that as D&D the game gets smaller and smaller and less significant, D&D the brand just becomes the thing to focus on? And I mean, short term, yeah, you know, you could milk the D&D brand for another 10, 15 years, probably. But eventually, people want to play the game. That is what's ingrained at the core of everything else. So this sort of fire and forget mentality of theirs continues to just fail miserably. But they do fail miserably forward. I mean, they look at everything as a success, even the failures. You know, even though they're being sued, even though they lost $1 billion, even though Q4 revenue was awful, even though people are losing their jobs left and right, and the industry as a whole are just losing faith in them, Wizards still sees all of this as like a going according to plan. We told you guys what the plan was in 2020. We've done nothing to circumvent from the plan that we told you we were going to follow in 2020. 10 years from now in 2030, the end goal of that D&D is what we told you was going to happen in 2020. It's not like we've been lying to you. So, I mean, we can whine and we can complain, we can cry. I can talk about this every week until you guys just say, stop talking about this. It's not going to change. But it's not like we should be surprised, because
laughing aloud now, magic in the air. Wands roll around us, cast away our care. Friends in the hallways, adventures we find. Spells and enchantments, trouble on our mind. That's so wizards, oh, 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 oh. Life is a spell we know. We're casting joy and glow, oh, oh. That's a wizard show. Mischief in the classroom, potions gone astray. Flying through the quad, now brighter every day. Laughter we cry hard, sneaking out at night. Cloaks in the moonlight, everything feels right. That's so wizards, oh, 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 oh.